So I will call the WSESD board meeting to order at 6 o'clock. The meeting of the WSESD will come to order. This meeting is a hybrid meeting, which means that some or all of the public body is meeting remotely and some are meeting physically in a previously noticed location where the public may attend to observe, listen, and participate contemporaneously. Please note that while we will strive to provide means for those attending remotely to participate in the public comment period, there may be technical difficulties or reasons that otherwise prevent or interrupt remote public participation. Therefore, it is important to note that the open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If a member of the public or the public body has technical difficulties accessing this meeting remotely, please alert us by email. In the event of a technical difficulty that cannot be resolved, we may continue the meeting if necessary to time and place certain. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting that are not unanimous will be done by roll call vote in accordance with the law. So, as the first order of business, I will make a motion to amend the agenda as follows. To add a moment of silence due to the recent loss of a WSESD student, and if anyone would like to make any notation. The second amendment that I would be looking to make would be to move the board representation Brattleboro board action needed to after student matters, and to add an executive session under 1 VSA 313A4, a disciplinary or dismissal action against a public officer or employee. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Anne. All those in favor of amending the agenda as I have indicated, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. So we will move right to student matters. That's 5 or 10 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. The moment of silence. I'm sorry. Deborah.
So there's a sonnet entitled Surprised by Joy by William Wordsworth that dates to the early 1800s that I thought was appropriate. Surprised by joy, impatient as the wind, I turned to share the transport. Oh, with whom but thee, long buried in the silent tomb, that spot which no vicissitude can find. Love, faithful love, recalled thee to my mind. But how could I forget thee? Through what power, even for the least division of an hour, have I been so beguiled as to be blind to my most grievous loss? That thought's return was the worst pang that sorrow ever bore, save one, only one, when I stood forlorn, knowing my heart's best treasure was no more, that neither present time nor years unborn could to my sight that heavenly face restore. I suggest that we have 60 seconds of quiet reflection. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Now we will move on to the student matters.
All right. I guess I'll start. I know Ben is online. So we had a student advisory committee last week talking about sort of what we would like to bring to the board. The first thing is we would like an update on the 4 recommended points that were at the end of the SRO report. I don't know if you all remember what those 4 points were. I have them if you would like me to read them, but just like an update on how that's going and what's being done within the school to meet those 4 points or to try and meet them. Another thing that we talked about was we are planning and scripting an outreach video for the entire school from the SAC group, talking about who we are, what our positions are, why, like what we are, why we're doing it, and how to contact us, we're planning to send out and have played in advisory, like a mandatory video to be played, just to sort of just outreach and just to make sure that we establish ourselves within the school, so then we can use this time and other people can come and use this time as well. And another thing that was brought up in the meeting was sort of human first, student second. We did with this situation that we just had a moment of silence for. It's sometimes hard for students to have to go through those situations and then have to come back and just jump right back into work and having to go back to class and just not really being able to have that time to process. And we were just talking about making sure we find that balance of like, we would like to be recognized as students and as students second, but human beings first, and make sure that our like needs are met, or we make an effort to meet those needs so that we can actually function as productive students, just making sure we have that base.
Ben, did you have anything that you wanted to?
No, Kaya said it perfectly. I just want to reiterate that our group's really focusing on trying to find that balance between who we are as humans and making school the most productive and comfortable environment for everyone. And that's kind of our drive. And I'm excited to share that with the board and our fellow students pretty soon.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other students in the online who would like to add anything? Thank you very much. We will move on to the consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of October 25th and November 3rd, 2022? Thank you, Anne. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Sean. All those in favor of approving the minutes of October 25 and November 3rd, 2022, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed or abstained? Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to amend the minutes from August 9, 2022?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Liz. All those is there a discussion?
You want to read the amendment?
It's your motion, so I'll.
Okay. The amendment is to reflect the final 4 minutes of our video or that was on video from our meeting before we entered executive session. I did run this by, I'm open to edits. I've never written minutes, but I ran this by our recorder, Wendy, for support. And so it reads, I'm using the initials of board members, as is consistent with how they're written. KY motions to enter executive session under contract 1 BSA 313A1A. MG asked to make a finding before entering executive session. Motion by KY for the board to go into executive session based on after making a specific finding that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or person involved in substantial disadvantage. MG asked for clarification on finding. KY responded contracts on board training. MG began to question the topic and indication. KY called MG out of order. MG called point of order. MG stated that we cannot discuss SU contracts on the board. KY stated, I'm not talking about the SU. KY resumed the vote. MG asked if the finding be cited. KY asked if MG was challenging her. MG replied, no, I'm asking for clarifying information. LA called MG by name. MG responded, point of order. KY announced the board was entering executive session at 9:21.
All those in favor of amending the
Discussion.
Discussion.
Okay.
So I'm concerned about setting a precedent of the detail of she said, she said, she said. When Robert's Rules of Order states, section 48, paragraph 2, that the minutes should contain a record of what was done at a meeting and not what was said by individual members. And I'm concerned that with this motion, that we can go back to any set of minutes and require this detail, which is really not possible with minutes. It's not following Robert's Rules of Order.
2 weeks ago, I reminuted these minutes. Hang on. If that's acceptable.
Did you-
I reminuted it in like minute form from the video.
I am grateful. I read these because this is what I'd submitted to our chair initially. And as I admit, I didn't really know how to write them.
The only thing I could not remember is exactly what time we adjourned after. So I do put that I made the motion, but I don't have the time. If I leave any typos right up there, go ahead and yell at me.
So Anne, can I ask a question? This is Emily. So you would say this is more in line with, it seems in line with other meeting minutes because it focuses on motions and objections, et cetera, versus exact things that were said. Is that the understanding?
Yes, this is based on how I used to do the minutes when I was minuting for the Putney board. It does make note that a discussion was had about the executive session, if that makes sense. Again, I'm not married to this, anyone wanting to make changes. But if it's acceptable to everybody, I think this might be more minutey. Does that work for you, Michelle?
Yeah, I think it's definitely better written, and thank you for that. I think the only difference is that it's not just that no consensus was reached and we did enter executive session. So
We didn't enter executive session because we didn't vote on it. I feel like you and I,
So-
some other people sat around and talked while Kelly and Tim tried to find out information about whether it was legitimate or not.
so the remainder of that meeting you feel was just part of the meeting?
No, I feel like.
Well,
it
Tim
was-
had amended the minutes to include conversation around the
Yeah, I
VSB
feel
training.
like it was
Okay.
just a conversation that nothing actually occurred. But if you disagree, everybody can talk amongst themselves. Like I said, I have no emotional attachment to these. I watched video and I minuted from the video, not from. And I know that we adjourned off camera, which is why I could not get the adjournment time.
Yeah.
Like a thing.
No,
Think
I'm
about
just
it.
thinking, I haven't watched the video in a few weeks. I was just thinking about that the way it ended in the recording was a motion to enter executive session. And my understanding is that any actions need to be documented, even if it was like without the vote. But otherwise, I think it's better written and more accurate. And I appreciate you summarizing it. So I would be willing to to amend my amendment to be as written. It's fine.
So now I'm confused. I don't remember. Now I need someone to clarify. Did we go into executive session or not? And the reason I want to clarify is if my recollection is that we did, but I could be wrong because now we have gone so far from August 9th that I am confused as to what actually happened. So if someone remembers or has a better memory, Michelle, I think you were just saying that you thought we did. Can someone help me out?
I think that's.
I think it's a little tricky because we
Yeah.
didn't vote.
Yeah, that's what
There
I,
wasn't a vote.
I think there was not a vote, therefore it did not happen.
So what that says to me is I seem to recall that there was a document. And does that mean if there was no executive session that that document is now public?
I don't remember the
Okay, and I do not
document, so
remember
I
if that
can't
was-
answer the question.
Document was
And so it is important to me to know if that document is now public record. Because if it wasn't an executive session,
Okay, I just got it.
Yeah.
I did request that we vote and some hands went up, but we didn't do a roll call.
So then I guess maybe we need to consult with Pietro and ask him to listen to the very end and to give us some.
yeah, I don't want to draw this out any longer. I apologize, but I really, that document is something that matters to me personally. And so if it is going to be public record, I'm fine with that, but I would like to know.
Michelle, are you satisfied with asking Pietro to watch the last few minutes of it to determine whether it is actually, whether we had actually gone into executive session or not?
Go ahead, you have a question
It seems
first.
to me that BCTV shut off as soon as the language came up. So even in watching the end of August 9th, we're not going to have that information. I did watch it fairly recently, and I'm not faulting BCTV at all. Not at all. But I do know as the language that was being used by board members said executive session, BCTV shut off, as they should. But we had not entered executive session at that time. And therefore, there is no record.
Right, like recorded record beyond that.
No recorded record.
My original amendment was to amend August 9th to indicate that there's a discussion of board training. My question is, why is this so important to add these details? I just don't get the importance of it.
Well, I personally feel that we omitted several motion, Robert's rules, right? That we have to put in motions. I forgot, sorry, it was a bug around me. We had gotten some information forwarded to us about specifics that need to be in. And so any type of action or that is whether it goes through or not is meant to be documented, and it was omitted.
But there was no action.
There was all of those, that last paragraph. I would be happy. I would actually love to ask Wendy, because she's as a recorder, because her minutes cut off at one point, and maybe she could help us understand.
Wendy
Liz?
was not here, so all she had to go on was the videotape.
Right.
And the videotape cut off at the point where a motion was made to go into executive session, but there's no vote taken. We agree on that. And what followed was a discussion of board training, and that's it. So I still don't get what this is all about.
I'm going to let Liz chime in.
Yeah, I do remember that BCTV cut off, and for it was a fair amount of time. At least it seemed that way sitting here. So, and then all of a sudden it came on, so that the recording didn't pick up me calling to Michelle over and over and over again and raising my voice each time, and then all of a sudden it was like bam. So yeah, there was something messed up there with the recording.
So do we have how does the board want to move forward with this? Do we
I just wanted to say that the minutes that are currently up that had been approved, they end with the motion to allow a student to enroll in a school. And then it goes straight to adjourning. So it sort of skipped a big chunk. So I just wanted to let you know, I double check that.
And then,
Yeah, I see
Tim,
that.
Tim, you made the motion to amend at the following meeting to include the time after that we talked about the VSBA training, correct?
Correct, and that's what we did.
So is there, Michelle, can you clarify what it is that you think is not, with the inclusion of Tim's wording, what is it that you feel is not included in the minutes since they were amended by Tim at that following meeting?
So the whole last paragraph, the motion to enter executive session under contracts 313A1A. And everything that ensued after that was, actually, these glasses aren't working for me as well as they did a year ago. Oh, they're so just okay.
So then can you restate what you, looking at this and looking at your information, what you are actually asking the board to amend the minutes to include? Is it after Tim's amended material, or is it before that, or is it, and can you just restate it so that we can get some clarification as to what you're actually asking the board to vote on?
I think that final paragraph, I mean, the last thing that we have was coming up, we had gone to 2 back-to-back executive sessions. So we voted on one and then it just goes to motion is adjourned. And so I just think that we need to document the actions that were taken, which seems to, for the most part, be that last paragraph.
So
What actions? I'm sorry.
The motion to go into the whole last paragraph. Yes.
can you just read the words so we can,
That's helpful. Thank you. I couldn't quite.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You and then realized it would make my screen go away. No, I can make it really good.
So the motion to KY to enter executive session, discuss contracts under 1 VSA 313A1A, to discuss a contract for board training. And that should say MG requested further clarification on the finding. Training requested a clarification of the finding of order. MG made point of order, indicated something, discussion ensues, whether executive session is appropriate. KY sought information by telephone, the consensus was reached. Yeah, so I think just other than that last sentence, there's some like differing outlooks. I thought that we were in executive session.
so, I'm just trying to see if so when you say motion, I thought you meant the last 4 sentences, but you're talking about motion by KY to enter executive session all the way down to KY sought information by telephone. Is that what you're including?
Yes,
okay,
that's basically what I had, but better written.
So are you asking to have that included before the material that Tim amended at the end of the minutes, or after, or where are you asking for that to be?
I think that's a good question. I think that as my memory has it, we took time, you were taking time to look into it, and then we started talking, and I had asked if we were taking a vote, and that because it would need to be a roll call, because I wasn't sure we should be entering. And so as conversation had ensued, I assumed that was what Tim's amendment was in reference to, was in that space in between, because it was complicated, because we didn't take a vote at the time the motion was made. So that's where I thought Tim's amendment came into, and I realize now that's probably something we should be mindful of noting when we make amendments.
Emily has.
Okay.
We've been involved in this conversation for a little while now tonight and in past nights, and I don't want to be rude in any way, but I do want to state my opinion, which is we're 25 minutes into this meeting, and which is supposed to be on education and the schools and improving student learning in my mind. And I don't see this as doing that. And I feel like it's taking up a lot of time where we could be focused on something I find to be much more productive, but that's only my opinion. But I'd like to move this along to a vote, because so I guess I'm calling the question, because I feel like we need to move.
Okay, thank you, Emily. You called the question, Michelle second. So
I
although.
need clarification, are we on this? Okay.
Do I need to motion to
Yeah,
amend
can you
my,
restate what your motion is, and can you be clear where, in reference to Tim's amended wording, where you're requesting to put it?
I will motion to amend my minutes to be represented as Ann Beekman had written in that final section. Which would follow immediately at the end of the currently listed minutes.
So.
And I believe that Tim's amendment comes after that.
So just before where it had stopped, you're asking for us to put motion by KY, all the way down, no consensus was reached, and then Tim's amendment.
I believe so.
Okay,
I wouldn't interrupt, but Wendy has her hand up, and Wendy would be a significant person in this conversation.
please.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Madam Chair. I heard Emily calling the question. I want to at least record that she called it, which I did, but I didn't hear who seconded calling the question.
That was Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking the question. All those in favor of amending the minutes from August 9, 2022, as Michelle has stated, please indicate by saying aye.
We first have to vote on call the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. All those in favor of calling the question, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. So now, thank you, Tim. We will move on to all those in favor of amending the August 9, 2022 minutes as requested by Michelle. Please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Abstain.
Okay, so we now need to have a roll call. So all those in favor of amending the minutes, please raise your hand. So that is Michelle and Sean and Anne and Liz. All those opposed, please raise your hand. That's Tim and Lana and Deborah.
Okay.
Emily. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, goodness. I will say I will vote to approve amending the minutes. Okay, so that has passed. So now we are moving on to finances. Is there a motion to approve the warrants of October 11, 2022 in the amount of $254,855.46? October 17, 2022 in the amount of $2,563,228.96. October 25, 2022 in the amount of $497,789.82. And October 31, 2022 in the amount of $110,294.88. And the payrolls of October 7, 2022 in the amount of $1,440,524.13. And October 21, 2022 in the amount of $1,444,398.37. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Second. Thank you. That was Michelle and Anne. All those in favor of, sure.
We didn't have a finance meeting tonight, unfortunately, but it's very interesting to look at the second warrant that was mentioned, that $2,563,228.96. That is a very large amount of warrants. And it should be noted that that included the second to the last payment on the BOHS project, which is $1.6 million. So I wasn't sure how many more there were. And I called Frank today, even though he was ill. And he was very helpful, as he always is, and said, next year it will be in the budget for the following year. And next year will be the final year of the BOHS. And then Putnam continues on because the Brattleboro Union High School the whole campus was 1.6 million. And then Putney will be a little bit longer. So I just thought it was pretty interesting.
Thank you very much, Sean, for bringing that very exciting news. All those in favor of approving the warrants and the payrolls as listed, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Okay, wonderful. So now we will move on to presentation, Windham Regional Career Center.
Yeah, thank you. Introduce you to our director, Nancy Weiss.
Hey, guys. Well, can I share my screen?
Let me do that. There you go.
Wait, I can make this work. So, I think when my staff and I started to talk about this, we felt like there are a lot of people in the community who have really no idea what happens at the Windham Regional Career Center or what they're financing when they pay for it or how the Career Center gets any financing. So as boring as that is, we felt like we should tell you a little bit about that. It's the first part of our presentation, and we hope that we're going to be invited back later in the year to tell you more. But anyway, WRCC is one of the 17 career and technical centers spread across Vermont. Bennington and Brattleboro are the most southern two. There are, the rest are spread throughout the state. There's kind of a clear east and west divide along the middle of the state. So anyway, we offer 11 programs. I included a link in the presentation to 238 students from Windham County. That means that when we count students by the percentage of time they stay with us during the day. And that breaks down to 131.5 students for the year. Just so you know, we had a great celebration over 131.5 students because we had dropped significantly during the pandemic. So a year ago, we were at 84 students. So we have risen considerably since that time. And our students are prepared when they graduate, either for a career or college or both. And so our hope is that they go on and follow their dreams. And some of them do that immediately by starting a career or going to college. And some of them do one and then do the other. So we accept students from 5 schools within the region, including one from Hinsdale, New Hampshire. The Hinsdale, New Hampshire students become important in a few minutes as we talk about funding. Our biggest percentage of students comes from Brattleboro Union High School. But if you look at the high schools that are listed, they are by far the largest school within the area or within our sending pool. So our programs include all of these, which is automotive, business management, construction and architecture, culinary arts, early childhood education, electrical technology, filmmaking and digital editing, forestry and natural resources, health careers, manufacturing, protective services, criminal justice, and protective services, fire EMR. I'm hoping that next year or the year after, I'm hoping for next year, that EMR, which is emergency medical responder, will turn into EMT. But that will take a partnership with VTC, and some of that depends on the consolidation of the 3 state colleges into the 1 state college. And then next year, we will also offer a manned and unmanned aviation program, which we're pretty excited about, and was made possible because we hired Chris Hodgson, who used to be the principal at Bellows Falls Union High School, to be our math teacher, and he is a former Navy pilot. So he is starting our aviation program. And that was something that I had never thought we would add in Brattleboro, Vermont. But it came about because there was interest at the state level, and then we were offered some free curriculum. And it just seemed like a great opportunity, and we had a built-in teacher. So I don't think I ever would have been able to find a pilot otherwise who was willing to give up what they earn as a pilot, which is often a problem in tech ed to find instructors. So anybody who completes the program leaves with educational training that aligns with industry standards, recognized industry credentials, which include apprenticeships, work readiness, things like CPR, OSHA training, and then several industry recognized credentials that are true just to that industry. So for instance, our natural resources and our natural resources program, the kids graduate with a certificate in what's called game of logging, which if they reach the 4th level, gives them a significant pay raise if they go to work for a tree service. Dual enrollment credits, we offer a huge number, and it's ever growing thanks to Rhonda Weingartner, who is our coordinator of that now. So we offer dual enrollment credits, which are free college credits that go along with the programs that we offer. We found out last week that our manufacturing program students who complete 2 years will be able to graduate with 15 free college credits. Plus they can take advanced math and earn 3 additional, and then 3 additional for actually 2 English classes, which will get them 6 additional. So they'll graduate with something like 25, potentially 25 college credits from high school. We do work-based learning, which can be everything from job shadow to full co-op experiences. Many of them are paid, but not all. And students graduate with work readiness skills. The number 1 work readiness skill that we are asked for is workers that show up on time. And that seems like it would be a no-brainer, but it's not at the moment. So it's a huge thing for our kids. So funding works, and this is a very complicated formula, and I wish Frank was here because he could help me. But anyway, CTE represents about 4% of the total educational spending in Vermont. WRCC receives Perkins funding. This year we'll receive $199,900 from Vermont Perkins, and from New Hampshire we'll receive another $19,394.99. Don't ask me where the 99 cents comes from, and why they didn't just round it up. But anyway, then we also receive local funding and tuition. And we receive other grant monies. And so Paul writes the vast majority of the grants for the district. And I write the majority of the grants for CTE. And I used to think it was kind of easy. And then we found out that they had added this little thing called the Comprehensive Local Needs Assessment. And in that process, we have to look at student performance, labor market information, and we have to do a gap analysis. We have to do look at size, scope, and sequence of all of our programs. We have to look at the program of studies and do an alignment analysis. The staff recruitment, retention, and professional development, and then the progress toward equity and access to all programs. So I did this last year. My documents are contained in a 3-inch binder that's pretty full. It's an incredible amount of work. And you're doing it at the same time you're trying to run a school. So it's extremely informative, but it's very challenging. I did not include all of the data in this. I did send a huge chunk of data to the board. So our students need more work, or we need to do more work in increasing non-traditional concentrators in electrical, forestry, and manufacturing. When you read that, you want to read attract more students that identify as female. We need to increase proficiency in reading and math. Mind you, the tests were done during COVID. The tests that informed this CLNA were done during COVID, which was not the high point. Which was not the high point of our math and reading scores. They've gone up considerably. We've adjusted and added an intervention program for students who are not achieving a grade of 5 or above on the work keys assessment. We give that assessment twice a year. It's required by the state of Vermont in our agreement with the federal government. So, which we have to do to get Perkins funding. So we also want to increase the number of credentials students graduate with, especially in protective services, culinary, construction, and forestry. Part of that reflects the fact that we were remote for part of the half the year that this, or from March on, that this data is based on. But for instance, I'm at the moment working with the Vermont Police Academy and the Vermont Fire Academy to offer students the curriculum to be able to test out of and become firefighter ones without having to attend the academy, or to test out of everything except the last testing for the police academy. And I'm working with a couple of different centers to have that happen, because our goal is to have kids employable as they graduate. And then we want to drastically increase our work-based learning opportunities. Right now, we send students out to a number of companies. Probably our biggest success story is GS Precision. GS Precision loves to host our students. They love to hire our students. They have a school program, apprenticeship program, in conjunction with VTC that earns students up to 25 credits through VTC that they get for free while they're working and going to school at GS. It's an amazing program. And we love to have our kids go there. They're just a fabulous employer for students in manufacturing. But they also are looking to hire our business students and our electrical students and pretty much anybody they can get their hands on at this point. So it's a really nice partnership. So this year we'll use our Perkins funding for increasing work-based learning for students, professional development focused on improving instruction and increasing equity and access, including local, state, and national trainings. So you will see in some of the warrants, some things coming through that we are grant funding through Perkins. 4 of us are going to a conference at the beginning of December, which is in Las Vegas, which I can't say I find very exciting. I'd rather go someplace that's not Las Vegas, almost anywhere else. But we're going to Las Vegas. And the nice thing about that conference is that we will spend 3 days really able to focus on equity and access. And then we'll come back. 2 of my teachers are on the state team for equity and access for CTE teachers. They're going to Las Vegas with us. And then they'll do some state training. And I think it's in April or May, we go to the NAEP conference in Washington, DC, which is completely focused on equity and access, the entire conference, which is great. We're going to work really hard on increasing those reading and math scores. We use Perkins funding to make sure that all of our students have access to career technical student organizations. That's things like FBLA, which is Future Business Leaders of America, Future Farmers of America, HOSA, which is Health Careers and Science, and Skills USA, which is another big one. And then we also use Perkins funding to help fund a statewide CTE teacher training program so that teachers can move from the apprentice level of instruction or licensure to level 1 licenses, because we hire most of our instructors straight from industry, and so they don't come with a teaching degree. It's kind of like no warranty included, except we seem to end up hiring lately really fabulous people. So having said all of that, I'm trying to rush through because I want to get to the best part of all of this. This student is Michael. Michael was waiting for his turn on a machine in manufacturing that we only have one of, and he started to design this rose. And he did all of the paper drawings for each petal, and then figured out the metal cutting and cut all the metal, and got Rich, our instructor, to show him some basic soldering tools. Michael's a level 1 student, so he's only been in the program since the end of August. And then he polished each of the petals and the rose itself, and he made this rose out of copper, all on his own, other than a couple of quick soldering lessons. And he's a 10th grader. And let me just tell you, as somebody who has very little artistic ability, I find that pretty amazing. So then I started talking to people, and I discovered that we have a student in the business program who has started making handmade harmonicas. And these are his harmonicas. And if I can get it. Scroll down. But anyway, he makes these beautiful harmonicas and sells them online, and he has written a little piece about himself and the fact that he's a sophomore at BUHS. And then we also have a student who started her own business before she came to us. She's a senior. And she sells her, I don't know what we're shutting down. It doesn't show on my screen, but maybe Paul's shutting down. I don't know.
That goes so well.
Anyway, this is Winter's collection of jewelry on Depop. And so my daughter is a huge Grateful Dead fan, and down the page a little bit are some earrings with the dancing bear from the Grateful Dead that I'm thinking of buying her for Christmas. So, and then our final thing is, and I'm only going to take about 3.5 more minutes of your time. I asked our film students if I could share, our film and business students, if I could share their joint projects, which are the marketing videos that they're putting together for the center. And they said I could, as long as I told you all that this is their rough cuts and they are not done. They are the one that the middle one that you're going to see needs an ending. And that you need to respect that these are just the beginning product, please. So, oops, I'm going to turn up my sound, sorry. Sorry. Sorry, we're getting a ton of feedback because it's my volume. So that was electrical. Sorry, guys. Don't know if we can get it to work with the. So each of these, when they're done, will be a 90-second promo PSA video. And there'll be one for each program. And I'm really sorry about the feedback. And then very last thing I wanted to do was our absolutely fabulous website that was built last year or new last year. And on the front page of our website, we always highlight 3 students who are doing amazing work. And bring their best game every day. So thank you guys.
Well done.
Can I have just one question, please? Just one question. As far as the needs assessment that has to happen for the grant, does that mean that there's the potential to lose funding year to year?
Yes.
Okay.
So when so if you don't do the needs assessment, you don't get the funding. So, and then you submit your needs assessment and inevitably they ask for some edits to your grant. So sometimes it takes 2 rounds of edits to get everything in place, which is what happened to me this year. And then, so you really, as long as you really do the comprehensive local needs assessment and you don't fool around and kind of make things up, you're okay. But when I first came to the center, we were so far out of compliance with federal requirements and state requirements that I found letters in the files that nobody had ever told me about the fact that they were threatening to pull our funding, which would have been a huge impact on the district and the school. And so luckily we've spent 3 years turning that around and we're now in really good shape. So I do not plan to lose our funding.
I'd like to once again congratulate Nancy on that because she really did inherit something very unfortunate and is really turning it around, turning the Career Center into an amazing place that I think is so important for our community and for our students. So thank you, Nancy, for all of your hard work and everything that you have done for the Career Center.
Thank you. I've been really lucky to have an amazing team of people working with me. So.
So one of the good news out of your report is that there's 100% completion rate within 6 months. That's a really great stat.
Now that stat will change a little bit, Tim. We will see a dip because we won't have 100% completion for the COVID years.
Right.
And there's not a whole heck of a lot I can do about that. I can push students to stay and graduate and to complete, but there are some students who just could not sustain during COVID. And I have to say, well, I wish they could have. Any student that has not received a diploma, a high school diploma, is eligible to return to the Career Center free of charge.
Okay. My second point is you mentioned interventions which are so effective, so badly needed to raise the proficiency levels, which are below the state norms in reading, literacy, math. Are you collaborating with the high school on those interventions, on strategies to raise those proficiency levels?
We are using, so the test we use is a state selected test. It's called the Work Keys Assessment, and we use their intervention program. And we run that during and attached to our class time. So we are not using the same interventions or as the high school, and we are not using high school staff for that. That's all Career Center driven.
Is that going to require extra resources that we'll see in the budget?
No, we have funded through Perkins money on the purchase for 2 years of the Work Keys intervention program. And then, and we hope the state's going to continue that process. And then we did not increase staff. We just increased professional development for our staff, which we funded through Perkins money to make sure that we could do the interventions.
Okay. And the third point, a few months ago, there's an article in the Reformer about Hinsdale School District doing so well in apprenticeships in Brattleboro. So what can you say about the Career Center and apprenticeships?
So I will say to you that we currently have a part-time co-op coordinator. We are funding through Perkins an additional full-time position to increase our apprenticeships. And our hope is that every student, when they graduate, will have had each year of that they're in the program at least one work-based learning experience each year. So a total of 2 or 3. Most of our students, I firmly believe that we have enough community relationships and the skills to build enough community relationships to have an apprenticeship or a co-op for every student who wants one.
That would be great. My last point is you have a huge greenhouse there that was used for the horticultural program that's gone now. Is there any use that can be made by people in the community? It's a huge, beautiful greenhouse that's just used for storage now.
So it is actually not used for storage. It's used for our fire program. But the reality of the greenhouse is that it needs some very expensive repairs on the inside to the equipment that's there or that was there. It was closed before I came here and was being used as storage when I first got here. I would love to see it be used as a greenhouse. CTE funding would mean that it would need to be a CTE program that it was linked to that's using the greenhouse. The other issue with the greenhouse, just so that everybody is aware of where we are at in terms of needing to repair it, is that somehow it was built on the north side of the building. Anybody who designs a greenhouse that's attached to a building will tell you it should always be on the south side. I have, short of rearranging the parking lot and a few other things, I was not the director of common sense at the time that the building was designed. And so while I have hope that we at some point will bring back the greenhouse and some sort of horticulture program, I get calls very regularly about it. Everything from having a hemp growing program, which federal funding really does not allow me to do at this point in time, to, farm to table and school to table or farm to school programs. I would love to see that happen. I just have not yet found a way to make that happen.
I'm sure the board would support you in any effort you make.
Continue to work on it, Tim. I
Thanks.
surely do.
Thank you, Tim, for your questions. Cassie, I'm gonna let you, and then I see that Jackie has it, and then if we can just make this kind of brief, we're gonna take a quick break, and then I'm going to extend my apologies to the candidates because we had amended the agenda to include you guys sooner, and so I apologize to the 3 candidates who are sitting here, and so Cassie, did you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, no, I'll be quick. Can everyone hear me okay? Because I usually don't join remotely. I just want to, Nancy, I think her presentation was great, is not giving herself enough credit for like the amazing things that the Career Center is doing. We have the privilege of having the Career Center right next door to us. So our students don't have to decide right at 9th grade, are we going vocational or are we going, to the traditional general ed track? And Nancy and I work very closely. She mentioned the interventions used just with the vocational classes in terms of like meeting the students' needs. But I just want to echo that, like, she has amazing instructors that are always willing to step up for our shared students and provide input and supports. And as a fellow administrator, the ability to collaborate with Nancy on meeting these students' needs. And in a time when we're really seeing students that need that hands-on learning and need that vocational track, working with Nancy to make sure that those students are getting what they need. That was it. I just wanted to share that in listening to our presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. Jackie?
Thanks. Nancy, that was excellent. I always enjoy your presentations. I think Career Center, that more students should be enrolled, and it's just like critical to the economy and the community and everything. My questions are if the kids that are enrolled in the culinary program are getting ServSafe certified, and also I'm wondering where they might do their work-based learning, and if maybe you have any kind of partnership with Cafe Services, which I also ask because I know Cafe Services does a really excellent job with, like, they have really high success rates with ServSafe for their employees. So it just made me want to ask this.
So they are getting ServSafe certified, and they will also get ServSafe manager certification in their second year. And yes, we're trying to build a partnership with having students co-op in our cafe services. And also at BMH, Brattleboro Memorial Hospital. They're another place that really wants our students, which is great.
That's great. I would take 2 next summer.
Yes, thank you, Jackie. Is there anyone else that has okay, thank you. We are going to take a break at 7:06, and we will be back at promptly 5 minutes so we can hear from our candidate.
So Tim.
Again, my apologies to the candidates. We had amended the agenda to address board representation, Brattleboro. And this is, I love technology, but this is what I get for not printing my meeting outlines. So we will hear from each of the candidates. We've already gotten some communication from them in communicating their interest. They will have 5 minutes to sort of address the board, and then we will ask questions of them. And following the 3 candidates making their presentation and having questions, the board will go into executive session. And right, so I think the fairest way to go is by alphabetical order, and I think Mr. Case, that means that you would be first.
If I'm by height, so.
Sean, can I ask you to be the time?
Yeah, just I'll do that.
Thank you very much. You were fantastic at it. Yes, wherever you're comfortable.
Right here.
Sure.
Well, first of all, thank you for extending the invitation. I think as most everybody in here knows, that I came within 100 votes of being a part of this from the first end step of anything that's been going on. So with that, I feel as though, and I'm sure that everybody's heard me be vocal about the board and about my disapproval of how the board has handled a lot of things, how people have been mistreated on this board, how people have acted on this board. I'm very vocal about that. That is something that I do bring. I believe this board suffers from a messaging problem. I believe the constant executive session thing has hurt this board's ability to move forward with confidence in the community. I think conversations have been slowed down so that the general community and people lose interest, and then things have been voted on when nobody's looking. That's my perception from sitting on the outside. That is part of your messaging problem, however. So, look, my skill set is somebody who doesn't back down from a fight, somebody who takes a look at the entire problem, somebody who has conversations with everybody from the boots on the ground to 30,000 feet. This is where I did, when I ran for school board, I talked to as many school administrators as I could to find out what the communication from this board to the ground level was. And I found out that there was virtually none. So I don't know how you can sit in a room without having conversations with the people who have to put your plans into action. So I think it's good to know that. It's not always necessarily the way it's going to end up. Let's face it, a board has to make some hard decisions. This is not a political board, often viewed as a political board, so it makes it harder for you to catch the lightning, if you will. So if this board chooses for me to be representative replacing David Scholes, that's fine. Again, I find myself in a situation where Robin Morgan is fine as a choice. I don't have an issue with her. I feel it ridiculous that this board has overlooked Jackie Reynolds as the most qualified candidate to step in. And this goes against everything I'm saying right now. But when it comes to choosing the right candidate, you have somebody who sat here who can pretty much just who's got a 6-month hiccup, and she can pick up right where you left off, probably knows the majority of the information that's still out there. It just seems strange that wasn't your first choice. It seems strange that I wasn't your second choice. So, but I don't intend to come on and be a disruptor. I do intend to come on and be somebody who can help with the messaging and figuring out ways to convey to the public what's going on, because you deal with kids and administrators every day. And I don't think your perception is a board that does that right now. That's me from where the rubber hits the road. And that's where I think this board has failed in messaging. I don't know that you're making the wrong decisions. I'm not privy to what goes on in executive sessions. I question it as to whether every time this board goes into an executive session, it needs to. I'm not an expert on Robert rules of order, but what I do know is I think that sometimes some of the messaging that does come out of that didn't need an executive session. It just comes down to messaging and how you can convey to the public that what you are doing is in the best interest of the kids. And, enough with the infighting, enough with what feels like decisions that are being made outside of the boardroom, being brought into the boardroom, already decided on before everybody gets to speak their mind. So that's where I'm coming from. And if you were to ask me, I think Jackie Reynolds is the correct choice for this. If you choose her and choose me, don't choose her and choose me, I will serve gladly. My intention in March is to run for the select board anyway, so I would not likely continue on as a school board member. I think Jackie would. So that sounded less like a campaign speech for me and more for Jackie. And I apologize, but I do believe that she is the best choice.
Thank you. I just want to clarify something before the board has their few minutes to ask me questions.
Sorry.
I just want to clarify that any letter of interest was sent to me and Barb Nowakowski and perhaps to Mark, but I didn't share anything with anyone on the board. I didn't discuss anything with anyone on the board until I sent one email out to them on Saturday, I believe, and that was with all your letters.
Right.
It was the three of them. If there was discussion amongst the board members, then that's their.
Again, just let me clarify. This is the appearance that the board has. These are not accusations that I'm levying, although I do think that Robin Morgan was announced when David stepped out. So am I incorrect in that timeline?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
You're incorrect. Robin announced her interest at the same time, but that night was the first I for one had heard of it, and I hear about a lot of things.
Okay.
And I had no one candidate had any information about the process from me until, and I won't speak for the other board members. They have to, I wasn't with them 24/7, so they have to, respond from them. But from me as the board chair, I did not share any information about the process with any person until that board meeting. So if there's information that came from the public, then that's, whoever it was that shared that, then that would be something to speak to them. But just to make it very clear that nothing came from, I received information.
Just to be clear,
to make sure that the board.
I'm saying what this is is a further example of the perception problem.
Well, thank you.
May I?
Okay, now we're gonna start our 10 minutes and
Yeah, you went for exactly 5 minutes, 3 seconds.
okay, so I think Deborah.
No,
and
I pass.
Lana, did you?
Yeah, so I just want to clarify one thing. So I remember when you and I ran, were the opponent, thank you. Jackie wrote a letter of recommendation for you. So that is something that as a private board member, you can say, you know, I prefer this person, or I'm interested or advocating for this person. That is, I want to just clarify that having an opinion as a board member is not, you've expressed yourself that if you became a board member, you would have an opinion, right? So that's right, exactly. So I think the conversation is getting a little confused as to whether a board member can have an opinion and express it versus someone having a leg up, which in this situation, I want to make it clear that no one did.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. I just want to clarify that. And I just find it to be an interesting thing to question when an active board member, you know, and David wrote me a letter as well when I was running. So, you know, I just want to put that out there. So to that end, as a board member, a lot of it is collaboration. How do you see yourself collaborating with members on the board? And that means not just taking a stand, but it really does mean listening and being a team player. And I have to say, I didn't hear a lot of that in what you just said. And so I'm really curious to know about that aspect of your work.
It all starts with conversation and communication. Quite simple. I don't know what's going through Tim's head right now. All right. I don't know what's going through Deborah's head right now. So unless I'm able to sit down and have a frank conversation, and you got a problem with me, then you tell me. All that does is get us past all of that in a hurry and find a solution to the problem so that we can come together and work together. It's all based on communication. Again, that's what I feel has been shortfalling as far as on the other side of these walls as the perception of this board and how this board has been acting. So it all starts with communication.
So my follow-up to that question is, I see that you've had a lot of questions about the way the board is running. Have you been coming to board meetings?
I've been attending a few online here and there, but no, I haven't been. I've been reading minutes after, yes. So, you know, I don't necessarily have all the time to sit in as just as a audience participant, and when I can just read the minutes and get my information from there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, as we've already seen, like the minutes they don't paint like a full picture. They give you like a little bit. And I know that Ms. Reynolds and Robin Morgan have also, you know, been showing up and been at the meetings. How will you make time for the board meeting?
Just make time. It's in the schedule now. It's just that simple. You can ask anybody on any board I've ever served on, whether it was chairing the Windham County Relay for Life, being the vice president of the Groundworks Collaborative, being part of the Boys and Girls Club, being part of all of these organizations that I've been for. You make time and don't miss board meetings.
Thank you, Lana. I think Liz had her hand up.
Liz has a hand.
I have a couple of questions. You, in just speaking to us now, you furthered the idea that there's something wrong with this board. And to me, that's not okay. Now, you had an opinion published in the Reformer. I don't know who you reached out to on this board, but I can tell you that every executive session was warned appropriately. And had you taken a little bit of time to just look up one BS.
Liz, did you have a question?
I'm going somewhere with this.
Okay.
You know, you're coming, you're lambasting us here, you're lambasting us in the Reformer without doing your due diligence as a person who wants to be on this board. And I find that a bit questionable. The other thing is the board takes more time than just these meetings. It takes a great deal more time if you really want to understand what's going on. I know you certainly never reached out to me for any information. You took information from one person and from out there in the community and ran with it. Well, what about the rest of the board? Did it ever occur to you that maybe what you were being told wasn't accurate?
Is that your question?
Is that your question, Liz?
That just sounded more like a statement. So
it was a statement with a question attached.
Okay,
What
so
have you
what was your
done?
question?
Liz, can you very briefly restate your question?
What work have you done on reaching out to this board to find out whether what's out there in the community is accurate or not?
So I have not spoken to any board members personally. What I've done is when it comes to executive session, those are the things that I'm interested in. And my understanding with executive sessions is that things like contracts, employees and children are discussed within executive session. If I'm incorrect in thinking that, then please do correct me. And I believe that those things probably shouldn't be discussed in a public forum. They're dealing with people's personal issues. So everything I've pulled in from information has just been from what I've read in the minutes, what I'm discerning from on how it's impacting the general public, the distrust in the general public that I have spoken to personally. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, here's a piece for you.
Okay.
We cannot discuss, we cannot discuss personnel. And that has been pointed out so many times and never gets reported. We're not allowed to discuss that.
Right.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you. We're going to go to how much?
6 minutes of discussion.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
we're doing okay. So it looks like maybe Ben has a question.
Yeah, I just want to say I'm very uncomfortable with the way this conversation has turned and how, I mean, I'm going to say we as a board, because I'm on as a student rep, are showing ourselves to the public in this manner. Just because somebody disagrees with you doesn't mean they're wrong. It doesn't mean you're right 100% of the time. And it seems like this argumentative narrative that's being pushed by board members isn't healthy for anyone. So I definitely want to bring that up and say it's kind of embarrassing.
Thank you, Ben.
Ben, I appreciate that comment more than you know, but please understand that this is how we drill down and get the information that we need sometimes. As uncomfortable as it can be to watch emotions do flare up, people take things personally and they shouldn't. But if we're discussing it, then we can get through it. So even though it might seem a little ridiculous, it really is part of the process.
Thank you. Did any of the other board members have any questions?
Case, I hear you talking about how well you communicate, and I don't doubt you because I'm hearing you speak and I've read what you write and you're an excellent writer. My question is, can you shut up?
What are you asking me to shut up about?
I'm not asking you to shut up about anything. I'm asking, can you shut up? I'm not like.
So that's a really broad.
Yeah,
aggressive
I
term,
probably,
right?
I don't
So
do that. being
let's
aggressive.
just drill down as to
Yeah.
what you want me to shut up about. If there is something that is going to hurt the school district, no, I will not shut up. Now, I might act within the confines of these four walls first to see, and if it is everybody against me, then I have to take a moment to reflect and wonder, am I the outlier here? Am I the one really truly getting it wrong? Then yes, I will shut up, but I'm good at assessing that. But if this board is split 50-50 and we've got an issue that I feel is going to hurt the district, the union, the schools, no, I won't shut up. But am I capable of acting like an adult? Yes.
Thank you. I didn't mean to
No,
sound
that is,
aggressive.
that
You
it's
gave me a perfect
it is fine. I'm okay with,
Yeah.
aggressive questions as long as they drill down into solutions that are actionable.
what I was trying to get at. You gave me exactly the answer I wanted to hear. So.
All right, good.
Did any other questions from the board? Okay, and I assume we're doing fine on time.
8.5 minutes. So.
Okay. Did you guess we have a minute and a half? Is there anything else that you would like to say?
I think I've said it all. Look, I do understand that I speak very loudly from a soapbox often, but a lot of it is when I see things that are happening that I don't think are right, or things that I think I can improve and add to the conversation. And I don't feel as though I've got a willing participant in the conversation. I do often get frustrated. So, but know that I don't act in disrespect. I just act with the information that I'm given, with the information that is allowed, and I discern my opinions from there. And then I'm always willing to be proven wrong. I'm never above right or wrong.
I just wanted to say that, to go back to Liz's point, the unfortunate thing and the thing that I keep coming back to is you haven't really been coming to meetings and you really didn't reach out. And from a personal standpoint, it would have been nice if you had reached out. Any of those times that you had questions, my door is open. I know that speaks for all the board members.
Well, you and I had a conversation.
Yes.
So
We had that one
so we
conversation,
had
which
that
I
one
called you for.
So is it my understanding then that everybody is to come to every single meeting in order to form an opinion? I
No.
don't think that that's right either.
But
The
it's to
minutes are
reach out.
published for a reason, so that we can have some sort of a sense of what's going on here.
But not all of us have the soapbox that you have. And so when you do have that soapbox, I think it's incumbent upon you to reach out to not just myself, I reached out to you, but to reach out to all the board members or to anyone.
Right.
And I think that's the part of the collaboration that I'm talking about, is those conversations that are so important.
I agree. Look, and this can all go back to when I was campaigning, and there were events that you were invited to speak at that I wasn't. Okay, so and those were very public platforms as well, where I should have been invited, but that didn't happen either.
Oh, I don't
So
know.
I'm not,
I don't know.
I'm giving you an example of how things go.
I appreciate.
That's fine.
Thank you for your, and I certainly appreciate hearing your perspective on our sort of, our scene from the public, and that's certainly a very valuable.
I'm happy to help if I can.
Thank you very much. Next is Robin. You're alphabetically, you are Sean. Oh, I'm sorry, Sean.
What I will do when we get close to 5 or 10, I'll just stand up.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, John. I'm just going to speak to why I expressed interest in serving to fill this vacancy on the board, and what I think I could bring to the board table. Just to refresh everyone on my own background, I was on the Brattleboro Town School Board for a little over 2 years until it was merged into this district. And I also have worked with a lot of these board members, both Emily on the Brattleboro Town Board and some of the other board members when I was on the WSESU board, as well as serving on the Communications Council as a community volunteer member for a year with Michelle and Tim, and worked with other folks here in community organizing. So I feel really pleased to have had the chance to get to know a lot of the board members, as well as on the WSESU Diversity and Equity Committee that I have showed up to meetings for as a parent volunteer for the last 6 years. I've also had the really wonderful opportunity to get to know some of our schools very intimately as a parent. I've been a parent at Academy School for, oh my God, like 9 years, I guess. And I'm also a BAM student, and I've had the opportunities to serve on the leadership councils for both of those schools. So I feel like I have a pretty intimate knowledge of some of the schools in this district. And I've also had the chance through the board work and also being a parent to make relationships with some of our administrators, all of which I think from my side, I think of as very positive relationships. 3 of them sitting right here, in fact. And as I've been watching the board meetings and attending them over the last few years, I have been feeling really concerned about that kind of the perception that Peter noted, that there's a lot of distrust in the community about what's going on in the board. And the board is in a very unusual situation that has necessitated much more executive sessions than is usual. And so I would really love to be a part of kind of helping the board navigate this really traumatic situation of the abuse that occurred in our schools, and kind of how to help heal that within our community. And I want to be a voice for just continuing the board's current work of centering student needs and support and safety at the heart of all this, but also centering the needs of survivors and finding a path forward for our whole community that feels like healing from what has happened.
So,
So are you ready to start the minutes? Okay. Michelle.
Hi, Robin. Thank you. First, I want to correct you. You're on the Communication Council for 2 years as a community volunteer, not 1 year.
Thank you.
If you fill this position, will you run again? Will you run to stay in that seat in the spring?
It's something I'm very interested in. And I also know that me being in meetings a lot during the dinner and bedtime hour is a heavy lift on my family. So if I am appointed to the board, I'm going to see how that goes and make a decision in January.
After budget season, when we have a lot of meetings? That doesn't seem fair.
Well, that's when you have to submit your ballot. That's when the decisions get made.
So my other question, and if you can't answer, it's okay. Just know that you have been a community leader in offering the board really positive feedback that involves this investigation. And so I'm wondering if you might have, I mean, obviously, without having a bigger picture of some of the things we've dealt with and that I can't address, do you feel that you've been exposed to information that would possibly have put you in a position where you might have to recuse yourself, or do you think you'd be able to be fully active as a board member in regards to that?
I think I could be fully active. I don't know anything that is specifics about this that would bias me towards a specific person or against a person.
Okay.
Sean.
Hey, thank you very much, Robin. A lot of talk has been about budget. We're about ready to start the budget process. And I was just wondering if you have a specific expertise or feeling, or how you'd go about possibly being even on the budget committee.
I'm just going to be totally honest that I definitely do not have any expertise in budgets, and that as a board member in the past, I feel really grateful to the work that is done before it comes to the board by the principals and Frank of kind of crafting the budgets of like what the funding that they feel like they need, and sort of relaying to the board, like, here's where I'm asking for an increase or a new position, and being able to evaluate that in contrast with what other things might be having to be cut to make up for that thing. So that's where I feel like I bring a competence to the table, and I really appreciate other people's skills of combing through all the numbers and minutia, because that is not my personal skill set.
Just to follow up, I think that's a really good answer, because everybody depends on the administrators and Frank to come up with the, genesis of the beginning of the budget. And so it's more we're following the path that has already been laid out in some respects. So I think it's a very appropriate response.
So the mission of this board is to work in concert with the administration to enhance the quality of education in the district, to make sure that students have a healthy, safe environment, learning environment. What can you say that the board has been doing right to further that mission? And what would you suggest that we focus more on?
Well, every time that I hear the updates from the administrators about what they're doing in their schools, it always seems like very, everything seems like moving in a really holistic, good direction. And so I think that what the board has done to support those initiatives that seem to be having some success seems like that's been going well. And I've also really appreciated the board centering the values of like diversity, equity, inclusion, and social justice in prioritizing what they are asking from the administrators. So all of that I would support continuing in that direction. And I'm not really sure what to say about where I think the board should do things differently around that specific issue. But I do think that one thing that imperils all of that work is when people get mired in questioning or distrusting the motives of the board And so I just feel like overall, what I would love to bring to this is like helping move things in a direction that gives people confidence in the board and that the board is working in tandem in partnership with the administrators and not in conflict.
Any other board members who would like to ask a question? Okay, last call for board members. Okay, all right, so what are we at for time?
That was about 5.5 minutes.
Robin, did you have anything else you wanted to say, or are you ready to?
Most of you know me from my recent work on the board. I feel like I have a bit of an unfair advantage now, having heard other people speak and questions that came up, but I'm just gonna go ahead anyway. I did write a very long letter outlining my qualifications in history that involved the good work that I did on the board and the many groups that I feel that I represent. So I guess what I really should talk about now is the fact that over the last 6 months, things have definitely changed for me. While I was on the board and the SU board, I was a part of some really difficult situations that you guys are still embroiled in right now. And I remember feeling at the time when I would get nasty emails from members of the public who didn't quite understand what was happening, so frustrated, feeling that I had this knowledge that I couldn't share. And gosh, if I could tell them everything, then they would totally understand and, and it would all be okay. So that was a really difficult position to be in, which, was part of the reason I wanted a little bit of a break from that. And I also needed it personally and professionally. And then in these last 6 months, I've had so many conversations with people that I hadn't spoken to as just a public citizen. And I'm so grateful. Like hundreds of people have had conversations with me and invited me to conversations that they were having. So I could see the perspective and how some of the things do look to the public and some of the reasons that there is mistrust. It's not just because of information that can't come out, that we do have a messaging problem. That is correct. And people have become part of this like really harmful narrative. And there's a couple out there and it's just this awful situation. So, there's the one narrative that the board is keeping secrets and they're telling they're making decisions and we don't know about it and we can't trust them and they're awful. I know that's not true because I served on this board with almost all of you. And I know that people are here with good intentions, trying to do the best work that they can. And it's very, very complicated. And yes, we could do better with messaging, but I know there are good people here. But then there's this other narrative that anybody who questions the work of the board is somebody who just wants the investigation shut down. And that one is upsetting. I sort of predicted in an email to everyone on this board that was going to happen, that we were all going to get conflated into this. And everybody who said there were problems with the board didn't want the investigation. But I'm everybody who said there were problems with the board. And I'm not saying the board is terrible, but when you say things like, you people want the investigation shut down, you're saying it to me and hundreds of other people like me that don't want anything like that. Almost everybody I've spoken to, in fact, every single person I have spoken to is fully supportive of this investigation and just wants more information. So I really think at this point is the time that I need to come back on the board, because I can reassure the board members, there's not this secret group of people that are buddies with Zeke Hecker that want to see this shut down. That doesn't exist. And it's unfortunate that narrative has been painted. And I also want to do a better job of reporting back to the hundreds of people that I've spoken to that this board does have good intentions. And I know things are complicated. I know they are because I've been there. So I just really feel like my work with this board is not done. And I know I've had a difficult relationship with some of you lately because I have done what Lana suggested, which is talk to all the board members. You all have emails from me asking for clarifying information and pointing out things that were upsetting to me. I haven't just done that to the board because there are administrators in this room that have gotten emails from me pointing out things that I thought were not quite correct and asking for clarifying information. And I think that that's what you want. It's one thing to sit in a room full of people that already agree with each other. I don't think progress gets made that way. I think a room full of people that have something to say can bring something positive. And even though we certainly have disagreements, and I will fully admit that I have disagreements with people in this room, that doesn't mean I'm not here to work with you. Everybody in this room has equal value to me, and we just have to work together to find the things that we have in common so we can move forward. And there are so many positive changes. We have new leadership at a lot of our schools, a new-ish superintendent, a new-ish board chair. There's just like, this is such an opportunity to just like get all the drama and silliness behind us and just move forward and work together. I think I did a pretty good job of that while I was on the board. I didn't do good enough. I would like to come back and continue that. Thank you.
Okay, so any questions? Michelle, look like you had a hand up.
Hi, Jackie. Same question. If you were selected, would you run for re-election in spring? Do you have enough awareness yet of what your schedule will be like to want to commit to something like that, or are you not there yet?
I'm definitely gonna run again. I was planning a run in 2024, but I just couldn't help myself but get involved now. So regardless of tonight's outcome, yes, I'm gonna run in March.
Regardless of tonight's outcome.
Right, if I'm not selected, which by the way is totally fine, isn't this exciting to have many interested candidates? When last time I ran, I was unopposed. This is awesome, and I should have started with that. I'm running in March no matter what.
And would you sit on, would you come back to the finance committee?
Oh, of course I would.
Oh, that'd be good.
I continue to be
You're
a
an asset.
spreadsheet geek who loves translating them to like understandable language for everybody. I'll do another PowerPoint.
Questions?
Yeah, that was going to be my question that Michelle asked, because I remember when you pulled that spreadsheet or the PowerPoint together for the finance at the end of the year and the budget development, you seem to really have a good understanding. And it's a complicated issue, and thank goodness for Frank and all the administrators. But I think that, that aspect of your strong, because you're a businesswoman, is a very positive thing. So
I appreciate you saying that, Sean. Love to do that again. Love to be in more meetings with Frank.
and that there are going to be many, many budget meetings coming up. I mean,
I remember.
You're ready, right?
Similar question to what I asked. Robin, sorry. What has the board been doing from your perspective to enhance the quality of education in the schools? And how would you want to build on that?
I have noticed, particularly in my second year as a board member, a lot more direct questions from the board about student performance, beyond just data and beyond the really awesome presentations that we get, kind of like, what is the right way to say this? Just the board members, particularly you, ask really specific questions about student performance, and that's wonderful. And if we could just continue to do that and make sure that the administrators know that we want to know everything you're doing and all the high points, but also like the hard data, if we continue to push for that or just ask them, I think that that's really helpful.
Secondly, you worked on ensuring that special ed kids had their needs served well. Is there anything further that you'd like to build on that?
Well, actually, I am our new special ed administrator. Tate just started a special education parent advisory committee,
right,
which I'm a member of. So we just started that work. We have another meeting next week. I would hope that as a board member, there's no conflict with me staying on that committee. I wouldn't imagine there would be, but that's going to be a really good tool to get really good feedback from parents and outreach and involvement to community members and help us like really get a feel for how we're actually doing. That does go well beyond data in the case of special education. So I'm really excited about working with Tate, and he's got a lot of really exciting ideas. So staying involved in that is going to be helpful, I think.
Thanks.
Sure.
Anyone online? Any questions from board members online or?
I don't have a question. I just want to say I do remember that budget proposal, and it was the first time I actually enjoyed hearing a finance anything. So it was
Well, thank David, because he asked me to do it. Yeah. Wasn't my idea.
Good choice. Well done.
And what are we at for time?
We're at 4 minutes of comments or, the public questions.
So last one more time, if there are any other questions, and if not, is there anything else you'd like to?
I'm rarely brief with anything, but I will be.
Okay, thank you. I do have to say that we are going to go into executive session just to have a brief conversation. I had anticipated that we were going to have a vote this evening, but based on the statutory requirement to consult with the Brattleboro Select Board and their unavailability to participate this evening, it appears that we're going to have a special meeting next week. We'll have to schedule that, and then I fought hard to get this to, really wanted to get it done this evening, but it's the right thing to do. I mean, I know it's disappointing. I think we want to have another person here at the table, but the Brattleboro Select Board, we do have to act in consultation with them, and they are eager to sort of participate. So they don't meet until next Tuesday, and so this will give them an opportunity. They can send things by email, or they can participate in our meeting when we schedule it. So more on that. I'm sorry for that, but so I move to find that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or person involved at a substantial disadvantage. Please note that under a separate motion, we'll be entering to discuss the matter. Is there a second? Thank you, Michelle. All those in favor of finding that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or person involved at a substantial disadvantage, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, Sean. So now we have to do a roll call. So all those in favor of that finding, please raise your hand.
I'm sorry.
Say
Repeat
it one
that.
more time. Sorry.
The motion I made.
Yes.
All those in favor of finding that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or person involved at a substantial disadvantage, please raise your hand.
Excuse me, Kelly,
Yes,
is this a vote to enter the executive session? I think that the public is not clear about what.
it
What you're
is
voting.
a motion to find that there would be premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or person involved at a substantial disadvantage. This is the
Which
first.
executive session is this?
This is to discuss the candidates that we have just heard from.
Thank
It will
you.
be a very brief executive session.
But
So
are you,
I'm-
I'm sorry.
We are, so I'm sorry, the board members who are in favor, who are
Really?
Liz and Emily and anyone else, and Deborah, please raise your hand.
In favor of going
In
into.
favor of
going
this
into it.
finding.
Yes. Mhm.
Okay,
Right.
so Deborah, Tim, Lana, and Michelle. So, and then there was Emily and Liz. And opposed is Sean. Okay. So now I will move that we enter into executive session under 1 VSA 313A3, which is the appointment or employment of public officer or employee, provided that the public body shall make a final decision to hire or appoint a public officer or employee in an open meeting and shall explain the reasons for its final decision during open meeting. We will be making that motion in our subsequent meeting, but this is just a discussion while we all have this fresh in our minds. All those, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Tim. All those in favor of entering into executive session as indicated, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, so we are in executive session at 7:53. We are going to try to make it very fast. No, we are in executive session at 8:03. And so just to reiterate, we were prepared to have the vote, and I think the board would really like to have the vote. We'd really like to have another person at the seat at the table, but based on the statute, we have a requirement to fill this position within 30 days of the vacancy. And the 30 days is up the 21st of November, and our next meeting is the 22nd. So we were trying to get this accomplished this evening. We worked really hard to try to get it done, and I thank the candidates for being willing to come this evening. Unfortunately, I was not able to. I did reach out twice to the chair of the Brattleboro Select Board. They were provided with the letters of interest, letter of intent. But this evening being election eve evening, there are people who are apparently working at the polls or other election related activities, and so they were not able to be here. They can send by email. We've been advised that they can provide their consultation by email, or they can appear at the meeting. So we will schedule that. I'm hoping it'll be next Tuesday evening. So we will get that warned as soon as possible. So, okay, thank you all for very briefly.
Virginia, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just asking if it's my understanding that the select board members do not, however, have a vote in the current situation. Is that correct?
That is correct. This board does make the decision on filling the vacancy, but we are required and invite the Brattleboro Select Board to provide their input.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So now we are going to move on to public comment on non-agenda items, 10 minutes.
All right, Lily, can I just ask a question?
Sure.
I just wanted to ask, once you guys decide who you would like to appoint to this seat, doesn't the person have to get sworn in? So if there isn't a selection made until the next meeting, then the person, whoever it is, wouldn't be able to be seated at that meeting. Is that right?
We will make a decision next Tuesday. That's the expectation. That's the plan. And I will reach out to Barb Nowakowski to make sure that I have the information. So whoever is selected will be able to have the oath. And I think that means that they would be able to participate at the following meeting. So thank you for asking that question. So now moving on to public comment on non-agenda items, 10 minutes. Sean, would you mind timing that, please?
Madam Chair, do we need to extend the meeting?
8:07.
Yes. Would you?
A motion that we extend the meeting by, oh my God, an hour.
I heard from our administrator, yeah, so probably.
Okay, so an hour is what we're saying.
Might as well.
Oh my God, okay. With regret, I'm motioning, deep regret, I'm motioning that we extend the meeting for an hour.
Second.
Thank you, Lana, and thank you, Liz. All those in favor of extending the meeting an hour, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so with regret, that is passed. Apologies to everyone. So now we go back to public comment on non-agenda items, 10 minutes. Is there anyone here in the public, anyone online who would like to speak? Okay, all right. I'm going to ask a second time, anyone for public comment? And then one more time, third time around, public comment. Okay, so thank you. We will be moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is appointment of a Brattleboro representative to the WSESU board. Is there a motion to appoint a particular person or?
Yes, I would motion to table that motion until after we've filled the vacancy. That's what we had decided last time.
Okay, so we need a second.
There was no original motion yet. So
yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm learning.
That's right.
Every
Because we didn't second her motion. Okay.
So we will table the appointing the Brattleboro representative to the WSESU board until I will put that on next week's meeting so we can get that done in that same evening. Okay, so Superintendent 360 evaluation follow-up. I'm not anticipating that.
Can we do policy?
Am I jumping past you? Yes, I am. Sorry, Deborah.
That's okay. It's not me. It's the Policy and Amendment Committee for sure. So I move that the WSESD School Board approve for readoption the following policies. D7, volunteers and work-study students. E8, tobacco nicotine prohibition. F39, students experiencing temporary housing insecurity. We have passed the 10-day warning period for each of these policies with no comment. So it's a motion.
Second.
Thank you, Deborah, and thank you, Anne. All those in favor of passing those policies as indicated?
Just discussion.
Discussion.
I'm sorry, I keep
That's
doing
okay.
that.
We're not all sitting in the
Yes.
line. I just only one question because it's created a lot of conversation in our community, the volunteer policy. And I was able to sit in at one of the meetings. I think there's been another one since, so I don't know what other new developments have, but I personally would appreciate just hearing the recommendation of our superintendent or from any administrators. That was the big concern was that it would impact programming in the immediate. So I just would appreciate hearing from you guys and where you're at and as far as recommending that we move forward as it's currently written.
Yeah, and I work on the policy committee with the Deborah who leads us, and I would recommend it at this point based on changes that we have made. I think it's inevitable that we do need to have a policy like this in place. And we have been flexible around pushing that date back to, what is it exactly?
February 1st, 2023.
In the meantime, Mark Anderson of the Windham Sheriff's Department has reached out to myself and other administrators to work with us to get our volunteers fingerprinted outside of regular business hours. So feels like we're heading in the right direction. If things that come up, I think there is some discretion for us to address if we have challenges, and we will address those as they come up or if they do come up.
That's great news, by the way, because that's really the biggest concern. That 8 to 4 schedule is really restrictive for so many people that would otherwise try to be available to help with driving kids to activities and whatnot.
Yes, so principals are working with their communities to identify lists of parents who've expressed interest or lists of volunteers. And then Mark will identify a specific date for that school to access the fingerprints.
So any other discussion? Thank you, Michelle, for bringing that out. Any other discussion on these policies? Okay, so all those in favor of readopting the policy as indicated, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Okay, wonderful. So now we will move back to the superintendent 360 evaluation follow-up. I'm not sure that there is much that we have. It's probably more in the venue of the SU, but it was on the agenda for last time, and this board did have the opportunity to participate. So I just wanted to give the board the opportunity to brief, if you had some comment or whatnot, or if Mark wanted to, not trying to put you on the spot, but if not, then we can move on to the next item, but just anyone had any thoughts? Okay.
I guess I'll just say, in my experience, a self-evaluation is a difficult thing to do. So I look forward to, seeing the results and having conversations with the board. Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we will move on to the sexual abuse investigation update, and we currently have nothing further. I know the public does get frustrated, but unfortunately, I believe there would be a little more than a year ago, there was a letter that the members of the public had made some requests, and I believe we have been trying to follow what the request of the public has been. One of them has been that our board attorney is not involved. So we have an attorney who is, and also an investigator. It's not our board attorney. We are also, I believe we were requested to be somewhat distanced from the investigation, and that is kind of a double-edged sword, because that means that if there was any potential for us to impact or influence the investigation, we can't do that. But then it also means that we have less information that we can share because we don't have that information. So I recognize it is frustrating. I'm not sure that there's anything else I can do except recognize that and indicate that I appreciate that. And I would still encourage anyone who has any information, even if it was not you, if it was someone else you knew, sometimes having corroborating sort of information is helpful. And any information that anyone has, even if they feel that it's a small thing, please feel free to contact Attorney Goddard's office. Anyone from the board who
have a hand, but not from the board.
Okay, so David, and then whoever is, okay, so David and then Mindy.
Thanks, Kelly, for the update and mentioning the call from the community that we received a year ago. Obviously, there's a lot of frustration about the pace of the investigation. And I think that the amount of time that this is taking has allowed a lot of distortions and a lot of misinformation to come out. But more importantly, it's added anxiety to the survivors who have come forward with their stories and who have trusted us to hear them and protect their anonymity and provide justice and help them tell those stories. And so I've been trying to think about how to remedy that. And I had somebody mentioned providing more support for Amy Goddard, for the investigator. And that, so I'd like to ask the board to consider asking Annis and Goddard to identify more staff, to take on more staff to provide support for Amy in the investigation, so it can be concluded more quickly.
Thank you, David. Mindy?
Hi, thank you. I wanted to ask, there was an editorial in the Reformer, I think last week, that referred to the investigation as being into, quote, Zeke Hecker and his victim, end quote. And this is an egregious misrepresentation of the abuse investigation, of course, but I'm wondering if the board can do something to correct this. I think that's partly coming out of the lack of information about the investigation. I understand why that is not being released yet. That's part of why I had asked for just metadata to clarify to people that there are people coming forward, that more than just one person has been named, and just anything to clarify, because for 14 months later, for the Reformer to post an editorial calling this an investigation into Zeke Hecker and his apparently one victim is such an egregious misrepresentation that I have to think that much of the public also misunderstands and has misunderstood, and that somehow the outreach has not been clear enough, or just generally, like, I wonder if there's more publicity that the board could do that clarifies that more than Zeke Hecker has been named. Thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. I'm not sure that I saw that editorial. Would you mind, if you have a link to that, would you mind sending it to the board so we can, I'm not sure that we can do anything about an editorial, but I'm going to pass it along. And I mean, it may be up to someone else to write something to, I'm not sure what the board could do, but we could certainly have a discussion. So if you wouldn't mind if you have access to a link to that, and sending it to the board, I would, that would be, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you. I mean, maybe the communications committee could do some outreach to the editor of the local paper. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go.
Zoom is showing me the recording is paused.
ACTV is recording.
Okay.
So
We have a question on this side.
I don't know how to ask it.
I don't know how to ask this question. Was there another amendment to the agenda that was made at the beginning of this meeting that we're going to discuss? Or have we discussed, is everything that needed to be added to the agenda thus far?
There was another executive session.
Right.
there's another executive session at the very end.
Okay.
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 And if I just may make a comment in response to Mindy, it's not only the board, but the superintendent and the administration is also working on outreach. The mistake that the article that Mindy referred to is, should be addressed not just by the board, but by the administration. And I think they are, as well as the student advisory committee.
And if anyone in the public, Mindy, or anyone really has any suggestion on locations that we can provide this information to try and reach out to people, please feel free to provide some information that resources that we might be able to make access to. I'm not a professional in very many areas of life, and so I'm sure there are people in the community who have knowledge or experience that might be able to.
Jackie, I've heard Mindy ask several times at a lot of meetings about metadata. I'm wondering what the barriers are to that being released, and if there's anything that can be done to help so that people could get that information. I feel like it would solve a lot if people could just know 97 people reported or 2 people reported, things like that. I think would help a lot of the anxiety. Is there anything that could be done?
I'm not sure. We can certainly reach out and try to get some information. I honestly don't know, but we can certainly see what we can do about that. Thank you.
Bethany.
Oh, okay. Bethany?
Hi there. I just wanted to circle back and I guess I don't know if it's in response to Tim's response to Mindy, but I just wanted to circle back and say that I think that if the superintendent's office and the student advisory council and leadership councils and anybody else wants to do outreach, that's fantastic. But what I heard was a very specific ask from Mindy that the board specifically put effort into communicating to the public and to survivors that anybody should be reporting anything that they feel like they need to this investigation. And I don't personally think that has been happening from a board level. And since it's the board investigating and it's a school district thing, I think that it's very important that come out as very strong language from the board encouraging people to come in. So if there's a situation like what just got presented about the editorial, I think it's really important for the board to counter that with very clear messaging that people need to come forward, not just about that one issue. So I just want to make sure that buck doesn't just get passed to other people, because it is a board issue that should be addressed by the board very clearly. Thanks for letting me have a minute to say that.
Thank you, Bethany. I'm thinking about, we all have boundaries though, and I think the board has restrictions on what we can, how much of the administration we can step into. This is my understanding, and if someone else has a correction to me, please for that. So I think we have tried to work with the administration so that they can, we don't have contact with the students and they do. So we've worked with the administration to come up with ways that they can reach the students. And I welcome if there are other locations. I'm not a particular tech person. I'm not huge on social media. But if there are places, I mean, we can certainly, maybe the communication council can try to come up with some other ways, other locations that they can reach out to. But I ask the community, if you know of particular locations, then please feel free. That certainly doesn't take from our responsibility, but I'm just asking if anyone feels that they have a particular thought or idea or suggestion, to please feel free to offer it. Michelle.
Could I just offer one follow-up question, Kelly?
Sure.
Do you happen to know, or does the superintendent's office happen to know, whether or not there has been any direct messaging to any of the alumni association members or any of the class alumni whatever contacts, so that it can get out to alumni? Because I think that the messaging that I wonder if it's lacking is not to current students as much as it is to also community members and alumni who have been impacted by this. I'm curious whether the board has done any messaging specifically to that, or if that also could be something that the communications committee goes looking into. Thank you.
Thank you, Bethany, for the suggestion. It seems like such a simple thing, and but I think it's one of those, sometimes we overlook the simple things that are right there in front of us, and that may be something that that can be used as a location. So, Michelle.
So I just want to share that that part of the reason the Communication Council hasn't taken this up, because we had a lot of really good ideas. Robin, you might have even been still part of that. We talked about, like what Bethany just said, there's alumni groups on Facebook to be able to share this information. We talked about, kiosk boards and in large employers in the area. And then we really got feedback that we needed to be removed, and the Communication Council is there to represent the board work. We also will, when requested, like if administration asks us to share something, we'll share something like that. So if that wants to be revisited, I know that that would be a nice thing to do. Or if there was a request from administration to utilize utilize the Facebook page for the board, it does get thousands of, our outreach is thousands of people a month. It's been wildly successful. And so I just wanted to explain why that hasn't been represented on social media. And, but I think that if the board wanted to take that up for reconsideration, or if we heard from our administrators, it's certainly something that we can take up.
So would you be willing to, if Bethany or Mindy or anyone else in the community has any suggestions, to send them to you in the head of the Communication Council, so maybe you can sort of try to
and share back with the board, and if the board was approved, then we could make things happen. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Lana?
Yeah. So I just want a point of clarification for myself and for the general public. From what I understand, the board's role is not to communicate the investigation. As a matter of fact, the board has clear guidelines not to do so, because it is not within the scope of our role, and that it would be, first of all, micromanaging the superintendent. It is his role to communicate with the community and students and faculty, and that would be a big overstep of what the board's role is, and that is why it has not been happening from the board. The board works with Mr. Spino to do what he does, which is to do his part of the job, and we work with him. We do not overstep or micromanage what he does. Am I wrong?
That sounds like we're trying to work with the administration.
Perfect.
And
I feel like sometimes the message isn't getting across very clearly that we aren't dropping the ball on the communication. It is not our role to communicate. As much as I would love to do so, it isn't in the scope of my role.
Sherry?
I just wanted to reiterate that the lack of any information at all, whether from the school board or the superintendent, is fueling a false narrative and causing the few who have publicly come forward to be targeted. And it's causing harm to survivors. So I would request that, if possible, metadata be released. it would be helpful to survivors.
Okay, thank you for sharing that, Sherry.
I just want to get back to David Scholes' suggestion, which I firmly support, that we contact Attorney Goddard's office and offer her additional resources, support for additional resources to expedite the investigation if she feels that would help.
So do we need a motion for that?
I don't think we need a motion on that.
Okay, all right.
Well, do we need a motion? Okay, I move that we contact Attorney Goddard's office and offer her and tell her that we would support additional resources to expedite the investigation.
You mean contact her through our attorney?
Through our
We don't
attorney, thank you.
contact her.
Thank you, yeah.
For discussion, I think.
Well, is there a second? I made the motion.
Maybe amending the motion a little bit. Can I say something? No.
Looking to.
The motion, it would probably be, what kind of amendment do you want to make? It might be easier to just have Tim withdraw it and then make it again.
Withdraw it and.
Well, no, I don't want you to withdraw it. So discussion, a second, so that there can be discussion.
Okay.
How's that? Is that the process?
That's.
Yes, okay, so now, thank you, Michelle, for reminding me that we need discussion after a second. First, we're going to Deborah, and then we would go to Liz, and then we have a question back in.
So what I was going to suggest is that perhaps it's a conversation that we want to engage with through our attorney with Amy Goddard, whether additional resources would be useful for her rather than just assuming it. That would be my suggestion. And then hearing what she feels, what kind of support she needs.
Liz, and then.
I agree with Deborah, and I want to add one other chunk. And that is that even if Amy wants more resources, this thing is just going to take time. It's clear to me that too many people have not yet heard or understood what this is about. And then once they get that information, it could take somebody a while to decide to come forward. So I wouldn't want to give the public the false impression that by giving Amy more resources, we're going to wrap it up more quickly, because I don't think that is correct. Thanks.
Thank you, Liz. Sean, you had your hand up, but he had his hand up, but you're a board member, so I want to know if you will defer to him.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
So I just want to make the point that what this board has just realized is that it has a messaging issue. And even if the messaging is that we want to go back to our attorneys and find out exactly what we can release to you. Obviously, you can't discuss this stuff in an open public forum. You can't put it in an editorial and just spew it out because people will get hurt. And that's not the intention. So the messaging here could be as simple as the board is advancing this to a level to find out what we can release to the public. We are actively working on it, even if it's just 3 or 4 lines in a press release that just let the public know, okay, so they're on top of it. And even an explanation as to why you can't discuss certain things in that press release so that the common person doesn't understand executive session. I promise you that. And that's where the frustration comes. That's.
Thank you for your comment.
All right.
Sean.
I would just like to agree with what Deborah said. I think, asking the questions, would more resources help in this manner? And that's an easy question. And there doesn't have to be a motion.
Okay. Michelle.
Yeah, I'm going with that, and that I feel that that Attorney Goddard does have a team. And so I would hope that she would convey to us if she needed more support, and if maybe clarifying that and confirming is indicated, that would make sense too. And it seems to me though, that we've also gotten a lot of feedback about appropriate outreach. And so expediting an investigation without the outreach in place doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But certainly if, I would anticipate that Attorney Goddard would be able to communicate with our attorney if she needed more resources. We've pretty much given blanket approval of funding for her to do the best job she can do. So I'm not sure that leaves us. I'm just not sure that I agree that this motion is necessary. I sort of am banking on us being communicated with as needed from our attorney.
I once again withdraw the motion.
Okay.
I think one thing that would be helpful is we have a presentation from Mark Spino about the different kinds of outreach that you're planning on doing. If we have ascertained that that the role is not the board, then maybe there can be an idea of how that's going to look, what that rollout's going to look like going forward. Or the stage 2 of the rollout, since I know there was that letter that the email has already gone out.
I'm not sure that I understand what you're saying.
I'm asking if the administration could convey what their plans are for communication in regards
What their
to
next step is.
what the next, I think that's what people are asking for. So, or at least one of the things people are asking for, that we could, maybe that could be on the agenda to talk about. Not a surprise attack now.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure Mark appreciates that. I'm Robin, and then I think we're going to move on to.
I just wanted to say, I think that in the motion that Tim had made and in David's comment, that I do agree with the idea of seeing if there are more resources, financial resources needed to support the investigation team. But I really would discourage the use of the word expedite in talking about this, because I think that the idea of speeding this up is not really the intention here. It's to enable them to complete this more thoroughly. And then separate from that is the idea that there should be some information released to the public now, not complete silence until the date when the investigation may be completed. So taking away the urgency from completing that by releasing the kind of numbers only without names, data of what has been going on in the investigation, I think would really take the pressure off of that.
Thank you. David, is it very quick?
Yeah, very quickly. My thought was that if Amy had additional people working with her, additional staff, that the work that she is doing now, that's taking a lot of time, would be done more quickly by a group of people. There are other people that have those skills. There's no sense of limiting things, and I think you're going to want to put money into next year's budget to make sure that it'll continue past this fiscal year. There's no question about ending it. It could, some of the work could get done. Some reports might be possible to complete earlier if there were more people working on it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else online? And then if not, we're going to move on. Okay, Mindy, very quickly.
Oops, sorry. Hi. I just want to say that I think Robin just expressed it really clearly, that these separate issues of like eventual communication about this, and a lot of the, I know that the board members are concerned about protecting the people reporting and about protecting survivors, but I think it's really important to understand that the total withholding of information is hurting them. It's hurting people who've reported, and it's hurting survivors, because some of those people are, as Sherry mentioned, the ones who have come forward publicly are like in the spotlight. And it looks like because nobody, and then there are people who are saying things that are doubtful of the entire investigation, or that it is even necessary, or this focus that it was just one perpetrator in the past and this is all blown out of proportion, when personally I know that's not true, because I know the people I've helped to connect with Attorney Goddard because they came to me first. So I know that there are many more than one person who have reported. I think that the balance of like what information is actually confidential and protective and needs protecting, and what information would actually, as Robin said, relieve some of the pressure and help to take some of the pressure off from the people who have been more vocal and bold about coming forward. I think that, you know, whoever's in charge of communication, you know, whatever restrictions the board feels they have in terms of their role, like there should be somebody assigned to this kind of communication so that it's happening, even if it's just a small update that says, you know, this many people have reported to date and, you know, it's ongoing. Just somebody in charge of the communication, because it is hurting people. This is, and I know that's not any of your intent. So thanks for hearing that.
Thank you, Mindy. We are going to move on to the administration report.
Okay. No, we're short on time, so I'll try to be concise. We have been engaged in a student climate survey for about 3 weeks now. That survey will close on the end of the school day tomorrow. Paul and I will then be in touch with Chris Overtree to discuss next steps and how we analyze that data. And as soon as we have that data, that'll be shared with school leadership teams as well. And then that process of digging into the data and identifying goals to get better at what we do. So that's where we are in that process. This past last week and last night, we completed 2 evenings of Leadership Council orientation, which was very good work. Through that work, we spent some time reviewing the history of the Articles of Agreement with our LC chairs. We reviewed a draft of Code of Ethics. Had some nice discussion, got some feedback, made some changes. I sent this material to you this afternoon. And then we agreed on an agenda template and norms of operation for moving forward. So we engaged with all of our schools in the school district. So we have, established a platform, a benchmark for moving forward. So that's exciting. Some of the basic things that we agreed to were agendas are posted 48 hours before the meeting. Minutes are posted within 5 days at the conclusion of the meeting. But you will start seeing a more common structure to Leadership Council meetings. And it was, some people here were at those. It was well attended. Let's see, budget development. Yes.
So is that, was that in like a recorded format that could be for anyone else who chooses to join, or like in future leadership councils, if like the leadership of the leadership council changes, is that in any way recorded, or is it in some format that could be provided to new people coming in?
So the work that we just agreed to has been shared with all of the Leadership Council chairs and all of the school leaders. Next step would be at the next meeting to review what that work is with all of the members, and then just start adhering to the common norms. So
anyone new coming in would just be able to be updated on. Okay.
Can I just add to that?
Yep.
Coming out of the Policy and Amendment Committee, the agreement is that there will be an orientation every year.
Yeah.
Right. So whether there's a turnover in members or not, but certainly for chairs and clerks to be well versed every year.
Great, wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, but I think we're on the right track for to building some norms and some expectations of how we operate, and opening lines of communication. Like if we know when a meeting is, when the minutes are going to post it, that provides easy access for the board, for the community. So I think that's a good next step. Budget development.
Recording in progress.
We just lost internet, I think, for a second.
Yeah, but it came right back.
We are in the process of developing our budget. The finance office has been meeting with all individual principals and school leadership teams. Next step is for some central office oversight, big picture review of where we are in terms of drafts. Again, budget season is an opportunity to share with the community what our vision is around supporting students. So I'm excited for the upcoming work to have these budget platforms to share how we're spending the money and how we are engaged with our teachers, with our leaders, with our parents, with our, most importantly, our students. So we'll be working with the Curriculum and Assessment Office, the Special Ed Office, focused on capital planning, resource management in upcoming weeks. And we will have a draft to review with the board in December. I've spoken at a few board meetings on administrator evaluation. So I'm not going to go into great detail, but I did bring more packets if people have not received those. But essentially, I'll just review real quickly again. The process is administrators will submit their goals to me by October 15th. October through April, we'll be engaged in our regular meetings, activities, individual check-ins, leadership meetings, staff meetings, leadership council meetings, board meetings, committee meetings, participation in professional development, leadership team and district team professional development, community meetings, etc. When we get to the spring, April and May, administrators will conduct a 360 survey for their own information, to sit down with me and identify goals, to do some self-reflection, self-evaluation. I've also provided some supervisory union competencies for professional practice for leadership. So at the end of the year, I'll use information from the 360 survey, goal setting discussions with administrators, and will fill out a scoring rubric, giving feedback on those competencies to administrators with the goal of identifying goals of improvement for the next year, because we all want to improve. Every year we do this work because we have the most important jobs in the world, I believe. We work with children every day. That's what I got for the board admin report.
And was there anything for the fiscal, or was that part was the fiscal?
Oh, so that was just kind of like it's looking at the timeline that Frank and I sent out via email. So I think it's pretty clear, we've worked with principals at schools. Now we're doing central office analysis. Next step would be board draft for the board, feedback, conversations, and we'll be meeting on many nights, likely in the month of December. So.
I was just going to also mention on the timeline, I just checked, it's not up to date yet. I know maybe it's still being worked out. It's not up to date on the website, but Frank is usually pretty good about that. But it is many nights, and the finance committee meets. If you're on both the SU and SD board, it could be up to 4 nights a week between Thanksgiving and Christmas, but it is really delve into how we're spending our money. And so I just would encourage the public and any board members to check out that schedule, look at that calendar, and start filling in your calendar so that you don't miss anything fun and exciting about budget.
Thank you, Michelle. Tim.
Will the criteria to evaluate the administrators, which is reflected in the rubric, I believe, be shared with the board for discussion? I know you sent it out to us.
I believe so. Yeah.
So you'll be asking for time so we can discuss that.
Yeah, the 360 survey is very much confidential, and for their own information to self-evaluate. But a step in that process would be giving the board an update in the spring for sure, especially around issuing contracts for multi-year contracts for future years.
The other board? Okay, we are moving on to nomination election of a vice chair. Is there a motion to?
And if we're going to be getting a new window, once again, I think it would be prudent for us to wait until that happens.
Table.
Okay, so I guess we will hold that off, and that will be number 3 on next week. Okay, so returning authority to approve new hires to WSESD board. Is there a motion to return the authority to approve new hires to the WSESD board from the personnel committee?
So
So
maybe,
moved. Second.
You're good with that?
Yes, definitely.
So-
I was just saying.
That was Tim and then Liz. All those in favor of returning the authority to new hires to the WSESD board from the personnel committee, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry.
I have a new hire.
Well,
Perfect timing.
okay, so you want to do that now?
Yeah. I think it'd be appropriate. So as you know, we're one administrator short at the BOHS site. We've been interviewing for assistant principal position, a 1-year interim position. As you know, Cassie vacated her assistant principal position to take on an interim principal. That is a 1-year position, which means she has the rights to go back to her assistant principal position next year. We interviewed multiple candidates, and I'm bringing the name of Hannah Parker to this board to be approved as an assistant principal on a 1-year interim contract. She will be vacating the dean of students position, which means we will now shift to hire a dean of students on a 1-year interim contract. Yeah.
Okay, so is there a motion to appoint?
I'll move.
Thank you,
Second.
Sean, and thank you, Michelle. All those in favor of appointing Hannah Parker as an assistant principal at BUHS, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Okay, thank you very much. And now we move on to Head Start Early Head Start Carryover Request and non-federal share waiver for grants that ended 6/30/2022.
I believe Deb Gass was going to be here tonight to address that topic. Is she online, Paul? We'll have to push it.
Deadline? Or can we hold that over to the?
Yeah, we can just push it to a future meeting.
Okay, then we will move that to the next meeting. Is that okay if we go to the 22nd? Did we wait till the 22nd? Okay, all right. So appointment of 2 additional leadership council members, 1 from Guilford and 1 from BUHS.
Yes, we actually have 3 as of tonight. And so BUHS student, Ava, I'm gonna get this wrong, Rosenwig Davidovitz. I don't know if I got that right. Guilford staff member Renee Baker, a Green Street parent, Lauren Henry Brown.
So is there a motion to? Thank you very much, Lana. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Anne. Is there any board discussion? Okay, I do see a hand over there, Robin.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, we also have 4 members for the Academy Leadership Council, and I didn't know if I had missed those people getting appointed at previous meetings.
Or perhaps if you.
I did email Tim about it earlier, but I was.
yeah, the proper procedure would be for you to contact the principal.
So is it just a matter of her sending them to,
I just provided Robin an updated list to see if those names are reflected on the list.
and then if they're not on there, should she contact Barb? Is that good? Okay, okay, thank you. So all those in favor of the 3 individuals that Mark named, adding them to the leadership councils, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Okay, thank you very much. So the last item on our agenda is, unfortunately, it's an executive session. So I'm going to move to find that premature general public knowledge will clearly place the public body or person involved at a substantial disadvantage. Please note that under a separate motion, we will be entering an executive session to discuss a matter under 1 VSA 313A4, which is a disciplinary or dismissal action against a public officer or employee. But nothing, okay, and 1 VSA 313A1F, confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the body. So is there I've made the motion to
Mark and Kendall.
and invite Mark Spino and Attorney Kendall Host into the executive session. Is there a motion to find that premature general public knowledge will clearly place the public body or a person involved at a substantial disadvantage?
So moved.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, I thought I made the motion, but that's fine. Anne made the motion. No, Michelle made the motion. Anne seconded. All those in favor of approving that finding, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Okay, thank you. So now we will, is there a motion to enter into executive session under 1 VSA 313A4, which is a disciplinary or dismissal action against a public officer or employee, and 1 VSA 313A1F, confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the body, and inviting in Superintendent Mark Spino and Attorney Kendall Holtz.
So moved.
Thank you, Michelle. And then a second. Is it a board member? Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion from the board? Okay. Very briefly, Virginia.
Yes, can you please tell me whether you know if you'll come back to open session? And
Very good. Thank you very much for asking that. Before we go in, I anticipate that action may be taken. So we will go into executive session. Okay, Wendy.
Yeah, thank you, Anne, and thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't catch who seconded the motion to enter executive session. I got that Michelle made the motion, but who seconded it?
I did.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so did we actually vote? We didn't vote.
We haven't voted yet.
Actually, let me not make this mistake again. Okay, all those in favor of entering executive session as indicated, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, or abstained? Okay, so we are in executive session at 8:58. It's very possible that there might be action taken when we exit executive session, just so that's clear. Thank you. Okay, so we are back from executive session at 9:32.
Hold on.
Okay.
Maybe coming in.
Everybody's back in from the waiting room, but
Yeah, he's having a problem, but they're all here.
Okay, in case anyone didn't hear, we are back from executive session at 9:32. Okay, do I have a motion to dismiss Steve Perrin pursuant to 16 VSA section 243D for just and sufficient cause, and to provide him with a written notice setting forth the grounds for this decision to take effect upon his receipt of written notice?
So moved.
Thank you, Anna. Do we have a second?
Second.
Is there a discussion? Okay, so all those in favor of the.
Wendy's hand is up. That was me, Wendy.
So that was Lana and the.
Thank you. Also, sorry, Madam Chair, could you send me the wording on that motion through email when you get a chance, please?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
All those in favor of,
there's one other hand up.
and is it a board member?
No.
Okay, nope. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed or abstain? Okay. it looks like, let me look at my agenda. I believe that is the end of the. Okay, is there?
Virginia, Ray.
Sure.
Hi, could you just please give me the law, the reason, the chapter and verse, and I can look it up.
Hold on just a moment. Let me pull it up.
And if possible, could you explain at least the basics of the process to date to come to this conclusion and what might happen next?
So what I can tell you is, as noted in the motion, 16 VSA, section 243D, that's the first part of your question. And the second part is, I don't believe I can. Is there any other questions or? Okay, so then.
Madam Chair, there being no further business before this board, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Sounds like we have a lot of seconds. All those in favor of adjourning for the evening, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We are adjourned at 9:35. My apologies to Mark and Paul and BCTV.